Today, I'm going to be talking about Trap, the M. Night Shyamalan movie that isolates you in one mind. Focusing on a serial killer and his casual life attempting to escape a trap specifically made for him at a concert. It's a genius concept. Still, a concept can only carry a film so far. Keeping up with recent Shyamalan films, this one has very visible faults and cracks like my phone. But at the end of the day, it performs for an enjoyable experience. And no, it doesn't end with Samuel L. Jackson appearing to recruit the killer like Nick Fury with his iconic Shyamalan line, "Comic books, you read 'em?" Josh Hartnett must have broken his back filming this, since his performance had to carry the movie. He plays Cooper, the butcher, with an intense friendliness to everyone he interacts with, but contains a dark void behind his eyes. The character is essentially a monster in a human skin disguise, who has perfected some 90s Tom Cruise pseudo-humanity facial expressions. To get what I'm talking about, go check out Tom's interview on Letterman in 1993. Cooper and his daughter Riley have a realistic chemistry reminiscent of a real father and daughter. This grounds the killer, as he clearly cares for his child and her well-being. It toys with your emotions a bit, as you want this murder to be caught, but you don't want this girl to lose such a loving father. Then you remember, oh yeah, he's the bad guy. He needs to get caught. Although he is a great father, when the pressure gets to him, the killer is willing to put himself first. He is ready to use his daughter for his own safety, but ensures to never once endanger her life. Through a first-person perspective, you see how elusive Cooper is, but never on the level he is built up to be. He is obviously cunning, and the film shows how he has eluded basic law enforcement for so long. His elusiveness forced law enforcement to bring in a specialist who was always one step ahead. This is when luck sides with Cooper, as most situations randomly occur in his favor, instead of Cooper creating scenarios to work for his benefit, just so that the plot may push forward. Due to this, the film plays too much into Cooper's favor, with characters overly explaining things that allow him to gain the perfect amount of information needed to take his next step. There is a major choice taken by Shyamalan, story-wise, that seems as if he backed himself into a corner. Cooper makes a dramatic choice after the concert that completely changes the game of the story. No matter how events transpired after this, Cooper would have lost and his identity would have been made public anyways. The film maintains this singular perspective throughout, subtly baton passing into the eyes of another. When Cooper becomes a character in someone else's story through their eyes, he evolves into the menace that he should be. The curtains into the window of his mind pull shut, and you no longer can predict what he's going to do next. He becomes a full-fledged villain that obstructs these new leads. I think the third act utilizes this to its fullest potential, so that you are constantly kept on your feet, never expecting what comes next. Just when you think the movie will end, it keeps going, and I mean that in a good way. It reminded me of the movie Red State, but to a more subtle and lesser extent. Despite what the marketing in the film will have you believe, the entire movie does not take place at a concert. I would say about halfway into the story, it transitions into the real world, with Shyamalan's daughter, who plays the concert singer Lady Raven, playing a much bigger role now. As an actress, she's not as magnetic as she is needed to be when she needs to bounce off of Josh Hartnett. When these two work together, her acting and the scene kind of falls flat. One example that comes to mind is when Lady Raven attempts to belittle Cooper in a conversation, but the actress's acting skills prevent you from taking her demeanor seriously. Something little that did bother me is when Lady Raven streams on Instagram Live to obtain vital information. Within minutes, she receives the perfect data that was needed. She is never doubted by anybody. She gets exactly what she needs, no issue at all. Another situation of pushing the story forward, no matter the cost, something that this film suffers from. In classic Shyamalan fashion, there is a twist of some kind, but not the mind-shattering kind like The Sixth Sense, but instead a twist that'll make you say, when that final puzzle piece clicks in. Trap has a steady pacing, and by no means is it a long film, but looking back, the showcasing of all this concert footage could have been cut to conserve a snappier and quicker film. This movie might be perceived as divisive, but you know what? It's a worthwhile venture. It was an entertaining experience watching this, with some very humorous scenes, a few intentional, and others I'm assuming were not meant to be. You will not predict what happens next, for better or for worse. It's a worthwhile watch. But yeah, that's all.